Okay, everybody, it's now time for some tips and advice on the listening section. In this lecture, I'm going to really tell you what you should be doing before the audio starts, during the audio, and after the audio is finished. So let's go ahead and move forward. This is the IELTS listening exam tips and advice. So first of all, just some general tips, some general things that you should know. Number one, in terms of the keywords, always underline, circle, or highlight the keywords because those are going to point you to the answer choices, right? Keep in mind, you got to listen for synonyms here. Number two, spelling. I get a lot of messages from students asking me about spelling. If I say this word instead of this word, is it correct? Right? So they'll write me questions that say, the answer is program, but I wrote reprogram. Is that still correct? And my answer always is, no, that's not correct. You can't do that. The only time where you see two possible answer choices is really when you're dealing with a plural, like the plural S, because sometimes the answer can be a plural S or a singular depending on the grammar in the sentence, the way the grammar is structured within the sentence. But your spelling must be perfect. Now, let me say, during the exam, when you're actually listening and writing answer choices, don't worry about the spelling so much. If they give you a really long word like refrigerator, you can just hyphenate that on the test booklet. Because remember, later on, they're going to give you 10 minutes to transfer your answers. And that's when you can go ahead and spell out refrigerator, okay? But sometimes, if during the exam, when you're actually taking the exam, and they give a really long word like rendezvous, or information, or refrigerator, right? If you're busy trying to spell out a really long word, magnificent. If you're spelling out a really long word and taking too much time, they're going to move on. So on the test booklet, you can go ahead and abbreviate. On the answer sheet, you cannot abbreviate. You cannot do it. You can't do it, okay? You must write out the full answer and spell it perfectly correct. Now, in terms of writing answers, when you hear an answer stated or you believe you hear an answer stated, write it down. If you then hear something else that you think is the answer, write that down. You can cross out the other one with your pencil, okay? But go ahead and write it down right away. Because if you try to just listen, and then go back and try to write something, you get behind in the audio, and then you're finished. Finally, in terms of prediction, it is possible to predict if the answer is going to be a noun or a verb, number, address. Prediction is very, very helpful on this exam. Now let's talk about listening before the audio. Number one, read the instructions. You can't believe how many students get 5 or 6 wrong because they did not read the instructions. Number two, note the subject matter. Note the subject matter. Because if they're going to give a short presentation on a new sports center, then a lot of the answer choices might be sports-related answer choices. Always read for keywords. Identify the keywords. It helps you identify the keywords in the questions because this really helps you know when the answer is being said. Number four, think about synonyms. Really think about synonyms, especially for the fill-the-blank questions. When you're identifying the words before and after the blank line, think about synonyms. Think about synonyms for multiple choice questions because the correct answer choices are going to use synonyms for the answer that's stated in the conversation or short presentation. Number five, is very helpful to know the form of the answer that you're going to get. name, address, number, noun, verb. And then finally, you got to get through the questions, right? When they give you the time, the 25 seconds to look over the questions or the 15 seconds to look over the questions, you got to get through all those questions in that time period and identify the key words. Because again, that's going to help you know when they're about to tell you the answer, or it's going to help you know the language that's connected to the answer choice. So that's really, really important. Now, during the audio, this means while you're listening and writing answers, listen out for signposting, right? Signposting is language that lets you know that somebody is shifting from one part of a conversation to another part of the conversation. So, for example, in section number 3, if it's 2 or 3 people talking, very often one of the students will say the answer choice, the correct answer choice, and the other student will say, okay, that sounds good. That means they're done, and they're now moving from question number 24 to question number 25, right? That's what they're doing. Also, during the audio, you have to listen out for paraphrasing. You've heard me say this over and over and over again. It's all about paraphrasing and synonym language. Number 3, you have to continuously listen. Continuously listen. That means when you're writing an answer choice, you cannot shut off your ears and stop listening, because they're still talking. They're moving on and giving information that's going to lead you into the next question. They don't give an answer choice, stop, wait for you to write down the answer, and then keep going. Also, don't get stuck. If you're not sure of an answer choice, move forward. Don't get stuck. If you get stuck, you get behind. Next, number 5, you see the word there, understanding. And I need to explain this because that's actually something that you should not try to do, right? You should be listening for answer choices that are connected to keywords. Where a lot of students mess up is they're listening during the exam, and they're trying to understand the topic that the person is speaking on about whale development, the history of whale development. And they're trying to really comprehend and understand the subject matter. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're not testing your intelligence, right? But when you sit there and try to listen to the subject, understand the subject matter, you're really, really going to get behind and just miss answer choices. Now, of course, after the audio, there's some things you need to pay attention to. Of course, transferring answers. You're provided 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Spelling must be perfect on the answer sheet. You cannot abbreviate. You cannot write a synonym. If you don't know an answer choice, guess. There are some standard traps that you should listen out for. Number 1, sentence reordering. Very often, when they're speaking in the conversation or in a solo presentation, they'll take the object of a question and make it the subject. They'll reorder the words, right? They'll move around the blank line. What's the answer? What's the answer that goes on the blank line? So you have to be aware of sentence reordering. Number 2, be aware of synonym language, right? Very often the language before the blank line will be a synonym match in the audio, and you have to pick up on that because that's what the answer is going to be connected to. Be aware of exact language traps. This happens a lot with multiple choice questions. Also, when you get up into sections 3 and 4, or parts 3 and 4 now, they have the delayed response. And what I mean by that is they'll give you the answer for number 26. And then they'll just keep talking about whatever the subject is in number 26. They'll just keep talking about it. So they're delaying before they get to the information for number 27. And they do that so that, for students that have a lower level of English, they're going to get lost. They're going to think, well, wait a minute, is this information now dealing with number 27? No, they're just speaking some extra time about the topic for the previous question. Next, multiple options. If you have an answer choice that's dealing with a number, very often they're going to give multiple numbers. They're only going to give the correct number connected to the keywords in the question. And then watch out for self-correction. Sometimes a person will say an answer choice, and then they'll say, oh, wait, I didn't mean that. What I really meant to say is this. So you have to be aware of the self-correction. Okay, and coming up next, we're going to now get into listening strategy application, right? For sections 1 to 4, listening strategy application. We're going to take you through all the sections showing you how to apply strategy to real practice test. Okay, so good luck. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you in the next lecture. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.